What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. I am your host, Reckless Rex Ruger, along with my partner, the always quiet but never silent, the Alexis Arguello puppet. We are back with another amazing episode of Off the Couch Boxing. This one is going to be a real treat. I'm super pumped up for it. Our guest is here. Let's get into it and chop it up with him on another amazing episode of Off the Couch Boxing. Very excited. I find myself to be a fan, Ray. Whenever people pop up on the other end of this screen that I grew up watching, I can't help myself. I go into fan mode.
I appreciate that. I'm honored.
Yeah, it's first of all, it's amazing to have you on here. I've been really diving into the book by Mark Kriegel. I've watched the documentary. Such a fascinating life. The thing I want to talk to you the most here, as we jump in here, is when you got into boxing. I know it was you were very It seemed like it was kind of to carry on your father's legacy. He obviously had to have his career unfortunately cut short, injuries in World War II. But from a mental standpoint, so much is made about guys' physical attributes in the ring. But from a mental standpoint, did you put a lot of undue pressure on yourself at that point?
I don't think I did. And if I did, I didn't know it. You know, I mean, all you do is, I was a kid. I had a dream. I just,
right.
When I was a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a champion for my father. Oh, isn't that cute? Little boy wants to be a fighter. Father.
Right.
The kids say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be president, whatever. I wanted to be a fighter. So later on, after I won the title, one of the reporters said to me, if you weren't a boxer, what would you have done? What would you have been? I go, I can't answer that. Can't answer anything else I wanted to be. I was a good student. I had academic as well as athletic scholarship to go to college, had a professional baseball offer. I had opportunities. But boxing was, especially my last year of high school, I was just waiting. Second half of my second half of the year, my mind was already out the door. I was already in New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
Grade wise, but my mind was not there because I was thinking about going to New York, starting my career. So that's fact. I didn't want to be anything else. But the funny thing is, people always say to me, you were a fighter because of your father. I say yes and no.
Right.
Yeah, it's everything I wanted to be as a man, as a father, as a fighter, everything. But no, because he's the one who tried to talk me out of it. He's the one who said to me, Raymond, I had to fight with depression during the Depression era. I had to work. I had to make money. I had to eat. He said, you have so many other opportunities. I want you to pursue these opportunities. Get that education. Educate yourself. You can do so much when you have the education. Go to school. I had an academic, like I said, baseball scholarship to go to college too. He said, go there. Pursue the baseball. Whatever you can do. Thank you. So I said, my wife just remained there. It's just, that's why. But he's the one who never wanted me to fight because he knew what a painful life it was. He knew what it took to be a fighter and how painful it could be, not only mentally but emotionally, and besides physically. I'm talking about mentally and emotionally. So
do you feel like that mental toughness is something that's inherited from him, or do you feel like it was a combination of yours and his?
I believe genetics. I believe genetics has a big part of who you are and what you are in life.
Yeah.
I had natural strength because he had natural strength. I was naturally aggressive. My father was naturally aggressive. And so all of these things, things I had, I wanted. Like I said, I wanted to be him, but. He was a better fighter than I was. And I tell people all the time. And I'll tell you a quick story to reiterate that. But I tell that all the time. He was a bethere fighter than me. But my father came at a time there was a lot of great fighters. Depression, the 30s and 40s. A lot of great fighters,
Yeah.
And there's only 8 weight classes, 1 champion, and you fight, and you have to get in line to get that title fight. But the story I'm going to tell you is, I had my 15th, I was 15-0. I had my 16th pro fight in New York, March of '81. I'm going to headline at the Felt Forum, which is underneath the Garden. It's the smaller. You do well there, then you can climb to the main arena, right? So it's my first fight after my brother's death. I didn't know. I told my manager, give me a fight right away. After I came back, went to New York. After we buried him, I went to New York, back to New York, and to give me a fight right away. I got to know, So Griff, my trainer, told Dave, I want you to get him a puncher. I want you to get him a guy because I got to know if he could take a punch. I got to know if he can still fight or not. So they got me a guy, Storm and Norman Goins. I don't know if you remember. Norman Goins was a lightweight contender.
Yeah.
Hell, he was there. Terrific puncher. I was on the way up. He was on the way up. So it was the right time, right fight at that time. And a lot of people thought we were stupid for taking it because it was a dangerous fight because he was such a puncher. And I was just coming off the death of my brother. So I would go in there and, I'll never forget Don Dunphy doing announcing. That was on USA Cable. And at that time, USA wasn't really national. It was more regional at that time.
Right.
But so Don Dunphy was announcer. And I'll never forget. So the first round we go out there, move around, and boom, he comes right, jumps on me right away. So we have a war. The first round's a war. Second round, I jump on him, banging him, boom. I hit him with a body shot and a hook to the head, drop him. He tries to get up, he falls on his face, they stop the fight. So I win by knockout, second round. And I'll never forget, Don Dunphy says, and the young Mancini made an auspicious debut. And I went over to my manager and said, I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that auspicious means good. So, but here's the story. So now we're going to press conference. And my father's with me, and my father and mother with me. In the back is standing Ray Arcel. Now, Ray Arcel is considered by many to be the greatest trainer of all time.
Legend, yeah.
And he was my father's trainer. So Ray Arcel trained people from Jackie Kidberg, Benny Leonard to Roberto Duran, and
a legend.
So so 80 years. So so they said to him in the back, said, Ray, come up here, come up. So he comes to the front. They go. So the reporter said, Ray, what did you think of the young Mancini? Oh, such a terrific fighter. He's got great potential. Terrific, great potential. He's got a great future ahead of him. They said, Ray, do you mind you of the father? Oh, yes. Very strong, aggressive. Remind me a lot of his father. One guy yells out, Ray, could he have ever beat his father? Oh, no. I loved it because it's fact. I tell my people, I always say my father was a better fighter than me. I know that.
Yeah.
Because he fought at a time when there were a lot of tough guys. And here's the fact about my father. My father fought. He was the number one lightweight contender in the world, right? He fought welterweights. He won. Him and Marty Servo, who wanted to be a welterweight champion later on, had a draw early in both of their careers. They're very good, close friends. And they had a draw. They went and they hung out with the same guys. And everybody didn't want to see them fight. And they fought. And it was and they wanted to be in a draw. They had a draw. And afterwards, they double dated. They had a double date after that together.
That's nice. That's always nice. That's a good way to cap off the night.
Yeah, that's how it was back then. It wasn't personal. It was business.
Right.
And hey, man, we're going to go in there. We're going to do business. We're going to war. And I'm going to try to take you every day. But afterwards, I love you. Well, let's go out and have a good time. So that's how it should be. So, but see, my father, one thing I tell you, my father fought from Marty Servo. He fought all these guys. Even after the war, he came out. He came out of middleweight, which 2 weight classes, and he had so much shrapnel in his body. The point I'm trying to make is, my father had well, first of all, they didn't track your how many fights you had until you went to New York. My father had about 20 fights. He turned pro in 1937. He didn't go into New York until 1939. He had about 20 fights. He's like 20-0 around there, but he couldn't get fights. Nobody would fight him. So that's why he had to go to New York. But my father's record was 55-12-3. But the 20, say the fights, so him with 100 fights, right? He was never knocked out or stopped. Ever.
Incredible.
That's only 3 guys of that era. Now, could be more. There's only 2 guys of that era I know. Billy Graham and Kid Gavilan that were never stopped or knocked out in a career. So what I'm saying is he was a hell of a kid. He was a guy kept coming. So yeah, I know my father was a better fighter. He was a greater fighter. But again, I guess I came at the right time. And maybe, I believe in fate in many ways. And it was my fate. I said I wanted to win that title for my father. And I used to dream about it. People said to me, well, again, reporters would say, did you really think you'd be a champion? I said, yeah, man, because I used to dream about it. I'd be
Right.
18 years old, having these dreams of me carrying the belt over to my head, my arms raised in victory. And, I believed it. So, people say, oh, now sports psychologists have a fancy name called positive mental visualization.
For sure.
If you could dream it, you can be it. I'd say, hell, man, I was just called dreaming.
Yeah.
Have a dream. And that's what it is, that's it.
And now, did you ever sense, because you had such a close bond, with your father, did you ever sense any type of a bitterness from him that his own career could not go on?
Never. My father he was so proud, and so happy. Never. My father never talked bad about the fight game, even though he never talked bad about never getting shot. He just said, Raymond, I'd have won that title. Because he already fought Sam Engott, who was the champion. He fought him in a title fight, and by all accounts, won the fight. He lost the split decision. By everyone said, and they rioted that night. And I have the big paper clip, of the Cleveland plain dealer saying, referee votes for Mancini, 2 death judges vote for Engott. Crowd goes crazy and riot. They had a riot there.
Yeah, they're pissed.
So,
yeah.
So no, my father never talked bad about it. I mean, look, I'm sure it hurt him.
Yeah.
But he's so proud of me, and and maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Maybe it was meant. I believe in fate, like I said, and maybe good Lord had it for me to win it for him. Maybe I think if my son won it for me, it would probably be extra special.
Well, I'm so fascinated, again, because so much gets made on boxing shows and in boxing media about physical attributes, and a guy can do this great and a guy can do that great. But it seems like, the more I watch the documentary and I read the book, mental toughness and endurance just always seems to jump out off the pages or jump out of the documentary at me. And I'm wondering, you at one point had made a comment that, after the Dooku Kim fight, you were having a hard time trying to find joy again in boxing. How do you get that joy back?
Well, I didn't. I didn't.
It was diminished. It was diminished, and it wasn't going to come back fully the way it was.
Look, when I turned pro, I loved to fight. I since I was a kid, reading them articles about my father. I used to go subscribe to Ring magazine. I'd go to the newsstands and buy it. And then I finally subscribed to it, so I could get it once a month. That was my Bible, man. So I used to read that Ring magazine. I used to read about Alex Arguello when he stopped when he beat Ruben Olivares and form in 1976. I used to read about the guy, all my heroes, man. Bobby Chacon on the way up. I used to read the West Coast, article, but not only the East Coast, the West Coast, and I used to read about the Philly fighters, and they, because at that time, in the articles, West Coast and East Coast, the writers would talk about the fight,
right? What was going on each coast, right?
That were around the area. So I used to read about all the Philly fighters on the way up. So it was wonderful. So I had so many guys to read about, and I just, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there.
That's all right. That's all right.
Call coming in.
But for a couple of years, though, I mean, it really seemed like, life was really, a harder opponent than any boxing match. I mean, you lose your brother, and then, and then, of course, there's a fight with Dooku Kim. It just seems like, how do you pull yourself up? I mean, the mental strength is just, it's a testament to who you are.
Well, I appreciate that. And do I believe I believe Gen X, like I said, I believe a lot of it you're born with, the ability. I'm a firm believer fighters are born, they're not made.
Right.
But you're either born with the fighting spirit, you're born with that mentality, or you're not. You can develop talent, you can develop skill, but you can't develop this or this. You can't develop strength. So I was naturally aggressive. My father was naturally aggressive. My brother was naturally aggressive. He was a better fighter than me. He was in the amateurs. He was a better fighter than me. He was a better fighter than me. Everyone will tell you that. And he had that aggression, natural strength. The mind, I just believe, again, it's, since I was a kid, I think you're born with that too. You have to have a certain mental toughness that you can develop it, but either you have it or you don't, And my father used to tell me all the time, man, Raymond, you either have it here and you have it here, or you don't. Or three places you need it. Have it here, you have it here, and you got to have it here.
Yes.
You don't got a good chin. I don't care. That's what I always tell people. A lot of guys, tough guys, they got some guys have too much heart for their own good. Some guys keep coming, but they can get dropped or you ain't going nowhere. You could have too much heart for your own good. And there's others got all the talent, in the world and got no heart. They ain't going nowhere either. We see that. We see that happen, right?
Yeah. It kind of harkens back to me to the example, I watched a documentary about of course, the amazing trilogy that Irish Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti had against each other. And Arturo Gatti's people around him said, one of these days you're going to fight somebody that's going to be just like you, and that's going to be like your big test. I feel like when you stepped in the ring against Dooku Kim, it almost was a mirror of you. Two guys coming forward. You guys were almost, ideal dance partners.
No, of course. And when I fought him, first of all, he was the number one contender in the world. It isn't like I had a choice.
Right.
But I always felt to be a true world champion, you got to fight people from around the globe.
Right.
I admire guys like Ali, true champion. He went to Europe. He went all over the world to fight these guys.
Yes.
True champions do that. So the fact that I was able to fight, I had 7. I would say 7 title defenses. All right, it's actually 5, but 2 non-title fights. But your title wasn't safe, but your credibility and respectability is. So I would take 7 title defenses, right?
Right.
But 5 credited title defenses. 4 were number one contenders, and then from around the world. First was Espana from Venezuela, then Kim from Korea, then Orlando Romero, the South American champion of Peru,
right,
and then Bramble, who's from the Virgin Islands.
Yep.
It wasn't like, I try to fight guys that were from around the world because you want to be known as a true champion. And even when I had a non-title fight, I went to Italy and fought George Speeding, the European champion, and I fought him in Italy. So I'm proud of that. The fact that I fought guys from around the world. I wasn't staying home in my backyard like a lot of guys stayed in Las Vegas. They didn't leave in Las Vegas or wherever. And so
that makes you a world champion right there. As you said, going out into the world and taking on the best.
You fight in front of people around the world. Exactly. Yeah. You get exposed. See, that's the thing too about what I tell people. Boxing will never get back to where it was popularity-wise without network television being involved. Never.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I was exposed to over 60 million people domestically, over 100 million people worldwide. The capability, right? On free television. Now, with pay-per-view, or now you got the streamers, with the pay-per-view, they said there's 600 pay-per-view homes capable of pay-per-view. If you get a 2% buy rate, that's 500,000 people. That's it.
Yeah, that's not much.
No. So, I don't know. But boxing's, it's, again, a lot of good fighters, but I couldn't tell you half the guys. I know the names. I'm a boxing fan, but I couldn't tell you half the guys if they were walking down the street and I ran into them. I wouldn't tell you who they were.
Well, because you are such an old school guy, I'm interested to get your take before we go back into your own career. Like when you see these type of spectacles where we see these, I like to call them gimmick fights. I don't know if people take offense to that, but when you see these, I guess for lack of a better word, hybrid fights, where when you see an MMA guy against a boxer, or you see these Jake Paul type YouTube spectacles, do you ultimately, I know they bring eyes to the sport, but you being an old school guy, do you like these for the sport, or should these have no credibility?
No, they got no credibility. They have none. How could you say Jake Paul? God bless him. He's found a niche. And people say, "Oh, he's bringing eyes back to boxing." No, he's not fighting boxers.
Right.
He only fought one boxer. What happened? He got beat.
Does it help that he's fighting Mike Tyson in July?
It's a spectacle. They don't call it an exhibition, but it's an exhibition. They're using big gloves, 2-minute rounds. You can't sit and call it a sanctioned fight. No. Pro boxing is 3-minute rounds. 2 minutes is not a pro fight. You can't make up new rules.
Right.
Man, they got to stop that stuff, man. They got to shit. I'm sick of that shit, man. Stop it. You can't. Yeah. First of all, I read this little guy who works for. By
the way, I say, Ray, I love how passionate you get about this too, because I can feel it coming through the screen how passionate you are about this sport that we love so much.
And first of all, I admire what Jake Paul said. I've said this repeatedly. He trains like a real fighter. He's got real fighters in his corner. He's got a hype guy walking him into the ring as a real fighter. He just can't fight. That's it. No knock. He just can't fight. That's why he fights the MMA guys. Nobody, people say, well, he's fighting real fighters. Yes. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 12 years. Here's the difference. 80% is on your back. I help a lot of these MMA guys. I worked with a lot of these for hands. 80% is your back. 10% is hands. 10% is kicking. You can't develop. They don't get hit on the chin. They don't spar where you punch them. You spar in boxing and hit on the chin. They're not used to getting hit on the chin.
Right.
You got to get developed to learn how to take a shot. That's why a lot of these guys. That's why they didn't take you to the mat so fast. But now Dana White's telling them you got to do more stand up. All these guys out there going in, as soon as these guys get hit on the chin,
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So Jake Paul's no dummies calling that because he trains like a boxer. Other guys try to do it in a matter of 6 weeks. You can't get ready. You can't develop the chin like that. So as soon as they get hit, they go down. So he's smart. He's smart. He fought one real boxer and he got beat. And it was and Tommy Fury's a guy who can't fight a whole lot either. But he got beat. Just to show you how bad Jake Paul can't fight is he fought a guy who's not that good and he beat him. So my point being is it good for eyes? But no, it's not good. Boxing needs get the eyes back to boxing. Have real fighters, have real fights. You need to get network television back involved. Or now they're saying the Amazon's going to get involved. But there's an Amazon, which is a subscription anyway. Now they got pay-per-view fights. So I already have a subscription, so I got to pay extra for the fight.
Right, you're right. And I know that's leaving a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths, without a doubt.
Look, I haven't watched a fight. You know another reason why? They come on now. They moved it up to 8 o'clock on the East Coast time. The East Coast 9 o'clock. The fight will go close to 1. I'm in bed. I'm already
that's my bedtime too, Ray. I'm with you.
Now they're starting at 8 o'clock, which is smarter. So yeah. But I still could. I didn't get to watch the Haney Garcia fight because I went to fight. I went to sleep. So what I'm saying is, it's hurting boxing. We got to get back to 5 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, network television. You know, when I worked for Fox a couple 2019, that year that brought a lot of eyes back to the sport. So we did 26 shows. I'm the only one who worked all 26 shows. I did for Fox, and I was up in the booth. I was at ringside. They had Lennox Lewis working that, but I worked for FS1. I was at ringside doing commentary for FS1. Whereas with Fox fights, I was up in the booth, and come to before the fight and do the interview and stuff. So I was the only one who worked every show. And we did a great job, man. I thought that year was one of the best years of my life. COVID hits the following year, and it just and they didn't fly nobody, weren't flying nobody out. And when they started it up again in July, they used local hire, just local guys.
Yeah.
So
with that being said, you are still a fan of the sport, but are there any guys right now that are currently doing it right now that Ray Mancini gets excited to watch fight? Are there any guys who you say, wow, I'm going to make it a point to watch this guy. I like what he's doing.
Oh, there's a couple. I love this kid in a way.
Oh yeah.
And, he's the best confidant in the game right now. I love watching this kid. He's a machine. I tell you who's one of my favorite fighters a couple years ago, but he hasn't fought. And I don't know if he's retired. He probably should. He had a hell of a career, but he hasn't fought. But, I heard he's actually going to get ready to fight again. That's right. Coming up. Leo Santa Cruz.
Yes.
I love this kid. Great.
He's going to fight Abner. He's going to fight Abner Mares
for the third time.
Yeah.
Mares is more doing commentary. He's not there. He hasn't fought. Neither guy fought since Hoover was president. See. So
yeah.
But
Now, for you, obviously, your father, was certainly probably in a lot of senses a role model to you. But when you get into boxing, are there other guys, for Ray Mancini that you kind of put up on that pedestal? When we're growing up, we all have those sports heroes. I'm sure your father was one of those guys for you. But I'm talking about outside of the family, though. Who are those guys for you?
I tell people this all the time. My 5 boxing heroes outside my father. My 5 boxing heroes were Tony Canzoneri.
Mm-hmm.
3-time champ from in the 20s and 30s. Sure. My father tell me stories. My father loved Kanzi. They were close, good friends. He loved Kanzi. I was his favorite fighter. So Kanzi became. I used to watch tapes of Kanzi. Tony Canzoneri is one of the greatest fighters. To me, he's the one top 3 lightweights of all time too. So Tony Canzoneri, Henry Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Goes
without saying, yeah.
Henry Armstrong, Carmen Basilio, Rocky Marciano, and Roberto Duran.
And I'm pretty proud to say that I'm here in upstate New York, which is pretty much Carmen Basilio's backyard right here. I'm right near Canastota. I'm about 20 minutes away from the Hall of Fame.
I got to know Carmen, and I loved him, man. Him and his wife Josie, people, and he was a wonderful man.
Yeah. So you know, you got such an incredible resume and such an incredible career. But I'm wondering for you, what was the career highlight?
My career highlight: winning the world title.
Yeah.
Nothing better than that. I mean, that's it, man. You win the world title, there ain't nothing better than that. I always tell people my top three, because people say, well, winning the world title, obviously, number one.
Goes without saying, yeah.
But number two, my first title defense back here in Warren, Ohio, next town over. I had more fights in Warren than I did in Youngstown. I had 6 fights there on the way up. I had 4 fights here. But 20,000 people in an outdoor football stadium. And the reason why it's so important to me, and why we were at that time, 1982, we were 28% unemployment in Youngstown. Right?
Yeah.
The whole area was so economically depressed. And Bob Arum wanted to charge $100, $50, and $20. $100 ringside, $50 reserve, $20 general admission. I said, you can't do that, Bob. What do you mean? You can't do it. I said, you can't do that. What do you mean? I said, what do you want me to do? I said, cut it in half, 50, 20, and 10. I said, oh, I can't make no money that way. I said, Bob, we'll make it up in volume. They'll come. Trust me.
Yeah.
Now, this is a fact. Now, that week, there's supposed to be rain like crazy. Supposed to be torrential rains that Saturday. Bob makes me sign an addendum to my contract that if we don't make a certain crowd that we expected, it comes out of my purse.
Okay.
Oh God, please let it happen.
Yeah.
Sunshine, blue skies. Thank you, God.
Yeah. Miracles exist.
40,000 people. One of the greatest events. People to this day say it's still one of the greatest events. They remember. People bring up to me one of the greatest events for the area, but certainly in my life. So winning the world title, number one. My first title defense at Warren Molotov Stadium was number 2. And number 3, for every little leaguer, you dream of playing in Yankee Stadium. For every fighter, you dream of fighting at the Garden.
Yeah.
My third title defense, fighting at Madison Square Garden, September 15, 1983. Here's something I don't know if you know. That ring, they had the same ring for over 60-something years, almost 70 years. So it's the same ring that my father fought in, same ring that Joe Louis, Henry Armstrong, all the greats. It was the same ring they had from the first Garden. They kept the same ring forever. They didn't change the ring until, I think, in the 1990s.
What a piece of history. Amazing.
I fought the same ring as all those guys.
That's incredible.
I defended my title that night. Again, one of the greatest nights of my life.
Now I got to ask, because you know I felt watching the documentary, you know, so touched at the end of it. You know, obviously you've been asked to death over the years, and people know the history with the Dooku Kim fight. You're obviously in a great place with it, but you know, when you finally get to meet his son and his mom, you know, that seemed like such a cathartic experience for everybody involved. You know, you carried a great amount of guilt for a very long time. I don't think a lot of people, you know, people might know that, people might not know that, but how much was that meeting with that family just as important for you as them?
Well, it was more important because they asked me. Mark Rigo said, "Would you be willing?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't hesitate. I was like, I think about it, because I thought it was important for them to meet me.
Yeah,
it's important for the son to meet the man that was the last man in the ring with his father.
Yeah, that was special.
And you know, I don't know. Ultimately, he died at my hands. So you know. And for the woman who's going to spend the rest of her life, they were engaged to get married. So I felt it was important for them to meet me as much as it was for me to meet them. So when they asked me, I said, yeah. And so we set that up.
But it was amazing how the families came together. I mean, you know, it really turned into a whole thing. Like your family was brought, you know, was brought in. You know, I mean, you know, your children met them. I mean, it was really heartfelt.
And I'll never forget. We were in the front yard. They're setting up, and they said, "Okay, 20 minutes away." Okay, setting up, and get 3 cameras. Okay, 10 minutes away, and finally said 5 minutes away. And I just said, "Hey," I told Kevin, I said, "You guys, I'm telling you right now, you better get this. because you got one shot. I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
So we had 3 cameras. You better get it, because this is it. So what you saw. Yeah.
And now, when you tell the cameraman, you better get this. This is the only time I'm going to do this. Is it just because of the emotional toll it's taking on you?
Got to be genuine. I'm feeling nerves, butterflies. I'm going to react. You can't cut, take 2, repeat that same thing. No.
Right.
Not acting. This is real life.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm curious to know, at the end of the career, you step away from the ring for a couple of years. You come back in 1992. You fought Greg Haugen, who I've actually had on the show. After you lose that fight, how do you reconcile and know at that moment that that's the moment that this is my last fight?
Well, let me go back. I retired in 1985, right?
Right.
I had no love for the sport. So I moved to California, got in the entertainment business. I was being represented by the William Morris Agency. I was doing commercial endorsements. I was acting, did a couple of films and a couple of movies, but I wasn't fulfilled, but I was living a good life. Trust me, I was enjoying myself out there. But physically, mentally, acting's a whole different game, right? So I was acting and I was enjoying it, but physically I was still working out, keeping in shape. So when they offered me to come back to fight Macho in 1989, now that was the one fight I always wanted. It should have happened back in 1983.
Yeah.
It should happen in 84 before Bramble fight. For whatever reasons it did. And I always said, I don't want to live with what if. I'll come back for that fight no matter what. And I did. And I knew I wasn't going to get hurt. He's not a big puncher or anything. So, and I beat him. And I beat him good. It wasn't a great fight. It was a good fight. It was a good fight.
Yeah, very good.
But I wasn't, my timing was up. But he ran. He didn't have a run. And even they asked the referee, Mills Lane, afterwards, said, Mills, what did you think? He said, do you think Mancini won? He goes, well, I'm not going to second guess the judges. That'd be Bush. He said, but let's just say this. If Ray wasn't in there tonight, there was no fight. We said it without saying it, right?
You're right.
Macho said after the fight, goes, yeah, I lost, but they gave it to me, so I won.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I satisfied what I had satisfied. I had no more desire. That was it. So now I'm acting. I'm doing an off-Broadway play in New York. I'm doing off-Broadway. To do off-Broadway was such a thrill for me. First time I felt like I was an actor. So I'm doing an off-Broadway play. In the middle of it, Lou Falsino, who's the New York promoter, he comes to me, say, would you be interested to come back and fight Greg Haugen? I said, Greg Haugen, tough guy, stands in front of you, can't punch much. Yeah, let me think about it. Yeah. So I started thinking about it, and you try to convince yourself, yeah, I could do this. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. I'll fight him. And so that was ego. That was ego. The first one, Camacho, was personal. Now this was ego. And
right.
You know what ego does? Ego gets you your ass whipped as far as life and love.
Yeah.
Ego will get you your ass. And it did. And so I trained. I wanted to see mentally if I could still train like a real fighter and get ready for a fight. I had a great training camp. Training's a dress rehearsal. But I wasn't married before that. I had no children. So now I got married after the Camacho fight. I now have my second child, my first son, November. I go to training camp in February, and the fight's first weekend in April 3rd. So I'm in training camp, but every time I get up to go train, I get up, get ready to go train, and I get up about 2 o'clock after, you get up to road work to eat, and then about 10 to 2, I take a nap, get up at 2, and then I put on the radio and I start getting ready. And remember that song Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton?
Oh, sure.
On every day, and I'd be sitting and bawling my eyes out, crying my eyes out like a baby. Couldn't understand it. I guess I did understand it, but I couldn't control it. And now I'm gonna go train. So I tell people, I used to go with the attitude, either you're getting carried out or I'm getting carried out. One of us is getting carried out tonight. This time was like, God, please don't let me get hurt. My wife, my babies, they need me. Please protect. It wasn't the warrior mentality.
You've got more than yourself to think about now, right?
So I'm in the dressing room, and I told one of my trainers, Chuck Fagan. I said, Chuck, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be here tonight. I don't want to do this. He goes, well, it's a hell of a time to tell me now, ain't it? Too damn late, ain't it?
Yeah.
So I can tell you things about my walk from the dressing room to the ring, my pro debut, certain things I remember. I can remember when I won the title, certain things I remember. I can't tell you nothing about that walk from the dressing room to the ring. I can't tell you that. I was like dead man walking.
Yeah.
So my point is, I got beat, no excuse. I got beat, and I got beat good. The only good thing that came out, it resolved it. No more what ifs. No more what ifs. Now, as far as Greg Goggin, when I said good fighter, tough kid, champion a couple times, tough kid. But if I could fight him when I could fight, I'd have beat him. I'd have beat his ass good. I'd have beat him good.
Yeah.
That trust me. That's why I'm not a fan of the kid. Not because he's just not a good guy. He's just not. He's not a humble. He's not a good guy. And so but it is what it is. I did it. I can't take it back. But like I said, it resolved it for me.
Now, one thing I'm interested. Obviously, you are known as a pressure fighter. I think that's safe to say. I think you would agree with that assessment. You have the mentality like, I'll take two to get in there and land one of mine. Did anybody ever try to tweak that style for you?
No.
No.
Murphy Griffith saw me in the Golden Gloves, the National Golden Gloves, and that's he saw me. And he was out there looking for the best pro prospect, and he told Dave Wolf I was the best pro prospect, and that's So when I met him, he talked to me. He knew one of our coaches. He came in the dressing room and talked to me. And after my last fight, I fought the national champion, defending national champion. I beat him. Look, fighters know when they win, and fighters know when they lose. Like I said,
right.
I beat this kid good, and his own people turned their back. His own people were booing, and he got the decision. And I would tell people, there's nothing more political in this country than amateur athletics. It's the most Ku Klux organization there is.
Yeah.
NCAA is the most Ku Klux organization there is. So, so amateur athletics. So, they talk about guys traveling, going to international, but they aren't really the guys they want to go. They already know. So I had more of a pro style as an amateur. So Griff saw me, came back. He said, "Young man, you ain't never going to win no national title, but you could be a hell of a pro, and you could be a champion someday. And I can help get you there." So I said, "Well, we're going to talk." So that's how we started talking. And it's funny because Griff went down there to find the best pro prospect. He said, "I was the best pro prospect." Besides, he also wrote down two other names, and he told Dave in case I was going to do it. Two other names were Gene Hatcher from Fort Worth, Texas, and Leroy Murphy from Chicago. Both guys winning world titles. So
now you've got such great names on your resume, but sometimes when I ask guys this question, it's not always the most obvious answer. But in your opinion, who gave you the toughest fight? Who gave Boom Boom Mancini his toughest fight?
There's no dispute. Alexis Arguello was my hardest fight.
Arguello.
No doubt. Hardest
and
fight.
I will point out to you, Ray, that I do have an honor of him back here, the Alexis Arguello puppet. I don't know how much it bears a resemblance to him, but you see the mustache.
I loved him, man. I loved him.
A great guy, just a class act all around. One of my favorites.
I remember, like I said, I used to read when he beat Olivares for the featherweight title. I remember when he beat Escalera down in Puerto Rico for the junior lightweight title. And now watch when he beat Jim Watt. I just felt I was catching him at the right time. I thought people said, I was only 20 fights. I said, yeah, but I had momentum. I beat the number 6 contender. I beat the number 3 contender. By all accounts, Jose Luis Ramirez fought me because he thought it was going to be a tune-up. He had just fought Arguello down in a non-title. I don't know if you know, in a non-title fight down in Miami.
Yeah.
He dropped Arguello twice. He should have won the fight. By all accounts, he won the fight. But they gave Arguello the decision. So you can't come right back and fight the guy. You have to, the immediate rematches were allowed back then. So you had to fight somebody else in between. So he fought me, thinking, and even in Vegas, they wouldn't even take the bet on the board in Vegas because he was such a big favorite of me. He had over 70 fights. I was 20-0. He's just fought Alexis, dropped Alexis twice. So they didn't even put it on the board. And I outboxed him. And I was had to be smart against it because I knew he was a strong guy. He was in there in the trenches, but I saw he was a little slow foot, slow hand. I felt like a little bit of movement would throw him off, which it did. So I shut him out for 12 rounds, right? That got me the title fight. But I tell people, I beat the number 6 contender, and I just beat the number 3 contender. Where do you go from there? They offer you a world title fight. You're going to say, no, I'm going to wait. No,
right.
You
strike while the iron's hot. Yeah.
If you want to be great, and you want to be the best, you got to fight the best. You got to challenge greatness.
Yeah.
That's the best. and I felt I could beat him. I thought I was catching him at the right time. I saw him fight Jim Watt. I didn't think he looked particularly impressive. I thought I was catching him at the right time. But again, one thing, there's no greater experience. There's no greater teacher than experience, and he had the experience. And when we got into later rounds, I watched the fight over and over, and I was right on top of him from the beginning of the fight. I made him miss 1,000 right hands, but as the fight went on, he started creating space until he finally did that run right hand and caught me at the end of it. And I was
crafty guy, very crafty.
He dropped me. I got up. 13th round, I moved to catch him. As a 14th round, I jumped right on him. I'm backing him up. But he kept his composure, and then boom, caught me with a shot. Hit me in the hook and dropped me. I got up, but Tony Perez stopped it. Rightfully so. I was hurt, but I wanted to go on, but I was hurt. So
now the second part of that question might not even be the same guy, man. But that's the toughest fight. But the hardest punch that you took, was it also Alexis? Also Alexis?
Best puncher, the hardest fight, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end of that fight, though, and it's funny you bring it up because in anticipation of our conversation, I was just when I got home from work, I was watching the documentary. I went down that rabbit hole on YouTube. I ended up watching that fight again. He was so gracious, though, at the end of the fight, though. Just a real gentleman. I mean, a gentleman in a sport where you don't always see that kind of stuff displayed.
No, he was wonderful. Yes, he's a true champion because he was old school. If you ever think before every fight, he'd walk in the ring, come over and shake your hand.
Yeah,
he would walk over like a gentleman, shake. He was a true gentleman, man. And but he'd come out and try to take you out. That's the art of the sport, man. It's a gentleman's. It's known as a noble art. Reason, guys like noble art.
And I think it's important to be that guy, too, outside of the ring. Like, a lot of people tout Muhammad Ali as one of the greatest. Not even so much for everything that he did in the ring, but for the man that he was outside of the ring.
Yeah, no. Well, Ali is the only man that's bigger than the sport.
Yeah.
Nobody, but Ali's bigger than the sport. Like, Babe Ruth was bigger than baseball.
Right.
Bigger than boxing. I would say if you had a cultural icon, because, see, Ali crossed over. He was a cultural icon.
True.
Sports icon. If you put a Mount Rushmore of cultural icons, the first two guys for me would be Bob Dylan and Muhammad Ali.
Without a doubt.
I don't know after that. Is it Elvis? Is it Frank Sinatra? Is it Charlie Chaplin? I mean, who? I don't know.
Right.
But those two are on it.
Right.
So,
is it a big deal when when you're entering a big fight and Frank Sinatra wants to meet you? That's pretty big stuff.
That's pretty special, yeah.
Mind blowing, yeah.
That's the one thing. One of the best things I tell people is the people I got a chance to meet, hang out with, and it's a wonderful thing because boxing is, it's this thing. Entertainers and musicians want to be fighters, and fighters want to be entertainers and then musicians, right?
Right.
So, so the people I got a chance to meet and hang out with, and spend some time with. I got a chance to spend time with Frank Sinatra and dinners with him, and same thing with Joe DiMaggio and
amazing.
And Muhammad Ali, had dinners with him, private dinners with him, and just people like that. And you just you got a chance to meet so many people, and then when I moved to LA, I used to get a call from Milton Berle's secretary, Mr. Mancini. Mr. Berle would like to invite you to his table at the Friars Club for lunch.
Incredible.
I'd go there, be Milton Berle, Red Buttons, El Martino, Tony Bennett, and Dick Shawn. I mean, or Shecky Green. I mean, it was like a who's who of old Hollywood, man.
And a lot of people might not know this, but you were also, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you were also a childhood friend of the great Al Bundy.
Oh, Eddie. Well, I'm not a child. I met Eddie when I moved to LA in '85. Eddie came out for that show in '87.
Okay.
86, about a year and a half later. So yeah, but he's from the north side, I'm from the south side. But Eddie knew my mother and my sister because they used to play racquetball down the YMCA, and Eddie used to go down there to play handball when he was in town. Eddie's a hell of a handball player. People don't realize. Yeah. Well, he's a terrific athlete. So
and a tough guy, and also a tough guy. From what I hear,
genuinely a tough guy. Genuinely a tough guy.
And now, what about your own sons? Now, you have your own sons. Did any of your children ever flirt with entering the sport of boxing?
No, thank God. I mean,
Thank
my sons, thank God, one's an actor. I'm sorry, I meant this thing. One's
all
an
right.
actor, and one is a fashion designer.
Oh, that's great.
They train. They know how to. They know how to. Oh, my, I got I had to plug it in because it
That's all
started.
right.
But no, that's okay. I got it. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so they train because my one son trains because he's an actor, so he's training. He does a boxing training just in Pete Berg's gym. Peter Berg, director.
Yeah.
To stay in shape because physically, the mental and the physical work hand in hand, right? So he goes there to prepare himself, and my other son, he actually he trains people. He's down in Miami. He trains people too. So he's not only a fashion designer, but he trains people.
And you've also got grandchildren as well, do you
I
not?
have a granddaughter, yes. My daughter is the oldest, and she has my granddaughter, and my granddaughter's 3 years old. And
Amazing, right? I'm a grandparent myself too. Amazing, the best,
yeah,
the absolute best.
So it's been good. My life's been pretty.
And so I'm eager to get your opinion. You obviously said boxing is not what it once was. You feel like network television has to come back in, but it still seems like back in the day the big fights were able to be made a lot easier. Do you think the internet and these guys kind of arguing over these different social media outlets has kind of put a roadblock sometimes in making these big fights happen?
There's no doubt, absolutely.
The internet has been an obstacle.
You always hear about the telephone tough guy.
Yes.
Got the internet tough guy, right? These guys, they fight more on the internet. Oh, man, this thing's not going to stay out. I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to get this thing to stay for me.
It almost seems like they're more content to just kind of argue on Twitter.
Yeah, there's no dispute. The guys are more worried about being on the internet and becoming internet stars than they are about being fighters or being real boxers. Look, but it is what it is. Look, a lot of guys use it for their advantage, get fans, and I admire that. I have no problem.
Do you feel like last weekend when we saw Ryan Garcia pull that upset on Devin Haney, do you feel like that was a good mental tactic to use the internet, to almost make it seem like he was coming off the rails? Do you feel like that was gamesmanship? Did you buy into it and think that maybe this kid shouldn't be in this fight?
No, the kid's off the rails. He comes off like he's putting it on. He's not putting it on. This kid's. Look, I don't know the kid. He may be a lovely. I'm sure he's a lovely kid. I'm sure he's a nice kid. But he is off the rails. That's not how you do it, man. I mean, look. Here's what people forget. He beat Devin Haney, and he beat him good. There's no dispute. It was a hell of a fight. He beat him good. 2 fights ago, he quit against Tank Davis. He quit. On one knee, looking at Tank Davis. He quit. We forget that. That 2 fights ago, he quit. Now he's always the world beater again. No, man, it don't work that way. In my day, if you quit, you wouldn't have saw another fight. You wouldn't have been on national television. You wouldn't have got any high-profile fight for a year or so till you earned it back. But because on the internet, he gets a title shot. He gets a shot. First off, and here's the other thing. He has such a lack of respect for the sport. He could come in a half pound over or 1 pound over, 3.5, and he never tried either. Now, how much respect you got from? How much money are you making for the fight that you're willing to get? Well, you know what? I'll give the guy $1.5 million of my purse.
Yeah.
The mentality makes no sense. It can't comprehend it.
And also gave up his opportunity to take the belt home that night too.
No, he didn't. He wasn't going to win because he was overweight, right?
Right.
So he had no chance of winning the title.
Right.
but he didn't care. And the fact that he's willing to pay $1.5 million, how about they agreed to? Because a couple of days before, Devin Haney said at the press conference, this kid's not even going to make weight. I'm going to make weight. No. So he said, I'll bet you. How much you want? I'll bet you $500 million a pound. And Devin Haney knew it. So I can't. It boggles my mind. So what I'm saying is, so now this kid's supposed to be the face of boxing. No, he's not. He's not the face of boxing.
I'm glad you brought that up. So who is currently the face of boxing? Is it still Canelo?
Canelo's still the face of boxing, yes.
Yeah.
And after that, it's Inoue.
Yeah.
And you know what? Tyson Fury, he's the heavyweight champ, but I think Usyk beats him.
Really?
Oh, Usyk, he's not that much smaller. He's a smaller guy, but Usyk is fundamentally sound. This guy's boxing IQ is off the charts, and he doesn't fight in straight lines. He fights on angles. That gives Fury problems. Fury's a big, strong guy, but he lays on his guys. He puts his weight on, wears them down. Usyk's got a high box. He fights on angles. He's not gonna let him lay on top of him. I'm gonna tell you what. I think he'll punch holes through Fury. I do.
Is that something that you think is lacking with today's boxers? You think that there's not much, other than that much being shown in the way of getting back to the old school fundamentals?
Yeah, people always say.
I had Tim Witherspoon on the show like last week, and it drives him crazy too. He said that he seems like he sees a lot of fighters with just a total like lack of just the basics.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a perfect example. There's the lack of fighters. I said no, not lack of fighters. A lot of good fighters. Lack of trainers.
Yeah.
Very good. Very few good trainers. I can't even count on one hand guys I trust with my fighter.
Have you yourself ever flirted with the idea of training? No.
I've been asked. I said no, because that's got to be your life. I can't be here 2 weeks and be gone for a month. My business is around. I travel quite a bit,
right?
So I couldn't do that. If I'm in the gym and the guy's asking, "What do you think?" I said, "I'll help a guy. Hey, here's what I think. I'll help the kids in the gym. Of course, I've done that, but I'm not being a trainer because you got to be there. You got to be there for them kids. They depend on you." And and I'll tell you what. A perfect example, the guys that are, I'll tell you what, I don't think there's anybody more fundamentally sound as a better fighter in a way.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Japanese kid, this kid he's not just beating guys, he's going through divisions. He's a wrecking machine, man.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Guys, he's walking through them. So he's a demolition machine. He's just,
and it seems like he's got the stature, where he can do it over lots of weight divisions, where he may rival a Manny Pacquiao and be able to go through like 7-8 divisions.
And the state of mind, he's got that mental toughness that Pacquiao had. He didn't up. I'll fight anybody.
Yeah.
And this. So that's the thing. I love this kid in a way. I think Canelo. Usyk's right up there. So. And I'm gonna tell you another kid. I thought this David Benavidez. I love this kid.
Me too.
He's a wrecking machine. Canelo ain't gonna, but they say Canelo ain't gonna fight. I said, no, Canelo ain't gonna fight him. But why should he? Canelo's career he's already an all-time great.
I'm glad you brought that up because Canelo can punch his own ticket, but he is taking a lot of flack on social media for not making the Benavidez fight. Do you think that obviously he can retire and walk away from the sport? No one's going to question his legacy. But do you think that it will be one of those things that will be called back and harkened back if he doesn't fight Benavidez?
No, his legacy is cemented. Why would he take the fight? There's no really upside for him. He's one of the all-time greats. He's made he can never make. All he could do is get hurt in that fight. And why? There's very little upside for Canelo.
Right.
Very little. He fought Bivol. Now, Bivol Benavidez, Bivol's fighting beater beef.
Yeah. That's a barn burner. Yeah, that's an exciting one.
I don't know. I'm picking. I love Bivol, but I like bitter beef too, and I think
me too.
Strong for him.
Me too. And I've had his co-trainer on, John Iceman Scully. I've had him on a couple of times, man. And Beater Biev is a very disciplined guy. Very disciplined.
The wrecking machine, man.
Yeah.
But Bivol and Benavidez would be a hell of a fight.
Yeah. Are any of these major things that you went through, I'll go back in time. When the tragedy happens with your brother, at any point, like when these tragic things happen in your life, are you pushed to the point where you just want to say the hell with it? I'm walking away from boxing, or do you use them as like mental, to strengthen you?
Well, look,
I'm an only child, so I don't understand that sibling bond, but I feel like that would absolutely be, crushing, and it obviously was to you.
Right, but see, because I was training again, you got to block it out. You got to run through all kind of things in your career, in your life. That was why people said after the Kim fight, when I had a certain thing to I want to do is the reason why I considered walking away wasn't because of their outcome, which obviously was not good. It was because I questioned God, my faith. I questioned God.
Yeah.
Why him and not me?
Right.
That type of fight, it could be any one of us.
Sure.
my style's not going to change. So who's to say it wouldn't be me next time?
Right.
And I have
Good
to do,
point.
and I had a lot of talk about my very close friend, and I would call my personal spiritual advisor, Father O'Neill. Tim O'Neill was my teacher at one time. He went to all my fights. He's the only, my father and Father O'Neill. My father and Father O'Neill were the only two guys that allowed him on dressing room before the fight. And so we talked a lot, and he said, Ray, I said, I don't know what to do. He said, Ray, if you're asking me, he said, I want to see you fight again. He said, and I think God wants to see you, but God gave you a gift. He says, and you're a gift to these people, meaning Youngstown, said, to these people that are sitting. He says, I think if you don't fight, you'd be denying people your gift. He said, we don't know why God puts, puts things in our life. We'll find out at a later time. He said, when we meet him, he said, but I think you walked away from the game would not be doing yourself or anybody else justice. He said, God gave you a gift. You should use that and utilize that gift. He said, but it's got to be up to you. And that gave me sense of encouragement. And I said, that's because I wanted to fight, but it's just you question. And he said, you got to continue to have your faith and continue to say your prayers and ask for protection. It's funny later on, I used to say to Father Neil, because Father Neil and my father come in. So when they give it a countdown, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, finally 5 minutes, that Father, my father, I got to go. We got to go. So Father Neil, my father give me a hug and a kiss before the fight. And Father Neil would say a blessing on me. So later on, I said to him, Father, when you pray over me, what do you ask God? He said, I ask God to protect you and your opponent, that you both come out way not hurt too bad, not permanently damaged.
Yeah.
And he says, and I pray to God allows you to fight to the best of your ability and to help you to fight like you train. And I said to him, you don't ask God to help me win? He goes, no. I said, what? I said, can't you throw me a bone? He said, no. He said, because if you train like you're supposed to, you have everything it takes to win.
Yeah.
And if you didn't train like you're supposed to, how could I ask God to help you to win when you didn't do what you were supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my man.
How can you argue with that? Yeah, that's wisdom.
He told me like it was. So I always had a lot of love for him. So, that's why I say my faith carried me through it. So that's why I never questioned wanting to fight. Just, you question, that was the biggest thing was why him, not me? My style's not going to be changed. So, the mindset again. I relied on my faith. When my brother passed, I relied on my faith to carry me through. God helped me to get through this. When we got to the Kim fight, helped me get through it. And the same thing when I lost the title. You pray God get through this.
I'm 51 years old. I lost my father back in 2016. He was only 16 years old. I'm curious though, if you could share that moment, when you finally did realize the dream and it came to fruition, what was that moment like after all the fanfare and everything dies down and you actually win that title, for your father? Because he seems like such a stoic guy.
It was euphoric. People always say, what was that? I said, euphoric. And that's the best part. I was like an out of body experience.
But was he a very emotional guy as far as like really gushing over the moment with you afterwards?
No, I never. No, my father. I never saw my father cry. I mean, only later in my life I did. But what I'm saying is, my father was able to control back. My father went through a lot of pain as a young man. Parents splitting up when he was 10 years old. My father was, like I said, my father was my greatest hero as a man. Not as a fighter only, as a man, as a father, and he was everything. And so he didn't cry easily. So to get emotional like that was it meant it was rough. But when we experienced that, we all cried. My mother, my sister, me, my father. We just cried, man. We just all cried together.
That's a great moment. That's an amazing moment.
Yeah. So
And so when you look back on your whole career, you know, and you look at the legacy that you created for yourself, you know, and you could pick like one or two adjectives, you know, that you would like to people attached to the Boom Boom Mancini legacy. You know, what would you like people to be saying about Boom Boom Mancini? Obviously, you know, I've kind of shared with you that, you know, I really admire, you know, obviously the mental toughness. You know, obviously physical skills that, you know, guys getting in there and throwing punches and being able to do amazing physical things in the ring is a beautiful thing to watch. You know what I mean? But it's those other intangibles that I really admire.
You know, people once said to me, if you had, what would you like to be written on your epitaph? You know,
right.
And here's what I said. I thought about it. I said that he was a good son. He was a good father. He was a good fighter. And a good man.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, my father taught me a long time ago. He said, you're not. I've been reading a lot. It's been said a lot. You read a lot. It said people ain't gonna remember always what you say or what you do, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Right.
And so,
right.
That's as well. And so, I think that's what I want. I want people to remember me for how I made them feel. You know, and if I made them feel a certain way at a certain time, beautiful, man. It's a beautiful thing. So that's what, you know, and that's it. But that's, you know, I want people to remember more as the man I am, you know, the father and husband, and the son, and I always have to, and a pretty good fighter. I mean, that's down on the list.
Yeah, Ray, I can't thank you enough for being able to share this time with me, man. This has been a real treat for me. I've done over 100. I've done over 100 episodes of this show. You know, I've done a bunch of them. You know, with my own son. He has a family of his own, so sometimes he'll come on here and co-host with me when he's able to. It's a nice thing that we get to share. You know, but obviously, you know, family duty calls, so he can't be a part of all of them. But this one was very special for me. Very special.
And I appreciate you because you've been very, very, you know, on top fit, trying to get me. And I apologize. You know, traveling, whatever, ruin it, but today we were able to make it happen. So
I get it.
I'm grateful for you to stay on top fit and not take it personal or anything.
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, and
thank you for having me, man. I enjoyed this. I really did.
And I do hope you'll stay in touch, and hopefully we can do it again at some point.
We'll do it. Yeah, absolutely. Stay in touch with me. We'll do it again. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to have you back on. Ray Boom Boom Mancini, this has been a real treat for me. Really, it has. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. It's been a real honor.
God bless. Take care.
Thanks, Ray. God bless you. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye. There he goes, folks. Come on. That is Ray Boom Boom Mancini, for God's sakes. The Alexis Arguello puppet was brought up in this episode, which makes Alexis Arguello muy happy. So there's that, too. It's a win-win for everybody all the way around. Come on. If you're not tapping into Off the Couch Boxing for the best, most thorough, informative, fun, everything you want out of a conversation. We get together here and we chop it up like nobody else is chopping it up with all your favorite people from the boxing world, man. This is where it all goes down. That was an incredible episode of Off the Couch Boxing. Thank you so much to the great, the legendary, a man with heart, soul, class, character, an amazing ambassador for the sport, a man who has endured so much and has just always continued to move forward in the ring and in life. Move forward, keep punching, keep knocking obstacles out of his way, and forged himself one hell of an amazing legacy, man. So I can't thank him enough for coming on here. That was a real treat for me, man, to have the great Ray Boom Boom Mancini. And I'm speechless. You know, it's always amazing to have these guys on here, man. And from the bottom of my heart, when Ray goes back and watches this, you know, my utmost gratitude for doing it. It was a real treat. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook. If you're not tapping in, something is really wrong with you. You may have taken a few too many shots to your own head, because this is the place to come for the most amazing boxing content. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell here on the YouTube channel. Stay in touch, man. And let me quote the great Gary Busey, one of our great American poets and actors, who, when he was asked about how tough he was, once said, "I can go 15 seconds with anything." Hey, that's how I feel sometimes. I don't know that it's always true, but I can go 15 seconds with anything. Strong like bull. And I want to remind everybody that if you want to be a champion, stay tuned into Off the Couch Boxing and continue to roll with the champs.